Hey, what's going on everybody? Commander Crane here, and we are back with another Pioneer video, but today it's a little bit different. I'm going to be talking about my upcoming list that I'm going to be playing in the 2024 Pioneer RCQ season, Gruul Dinosaurs. I'm very excited to bring this list to you. So we're going to go over a couple different things. Obviously, we're going to go over the deck list. I'm going to kind of talk about, why I'm playing specific cards, that kind of thing. And then we'll talk about the sideboard, when to bring in those specific cards. And then we'll kind of talk about an overall recap of the list, why we're playing specific numbers, just kind of go more in depth for the most part. So let's go and hop into it here. So, all right. So here's the entire list right here. I'm not going to go through and I'm not going to name every single card. So if you wanted to go ahead and pause right now just to kind of see the exact numbers, I'm really not going to go in depth on the non-land cards. The lands, I'll go a little bit more in depth though, just because, I didn't dedicate a whole bunch of slides just to talk about the land specifically, because I would say it's a pretty standard Gruul mana base. You got the Copper Lines, the Stomping Grounds, the Carplusian Forests, the Boseiju, the Sequenza, and the Crag Crowns. Like, everything is pretty self-explanatory. The only thing that's a little bit different is Cavern of Souls. So Cavern of Souls, I'm only playing 2 copies of it. Cavern of Souls is fantastic. If there's a lot of blue-white control in your area, if you decide to build this list, maybe you could add a 3rd Cavern of Souls in there. But what it comes down to is Cavern of Souls doesn't help cast some of our non-creatures, our sideboard cards, so I don't want to be flooded with caverns and not be able to cast our sideboard cards, which is obviously very, very important. So that's why I'm just playing the 2 copies of Cavern of Souls. So, all right, that's the main board. Let's go and hop into the main reason that you clicked on this video, the dinosaurs. Let's talk about the dinosaurs. So, Marauding Raptor, 4 copies of it. It's the cheapest dinosaur in our deck, and I would say that it is the strongest dinosaur in the entire deck. 2 mana, 2/3 creature spells you cast cost 1 less to cast. Whenever another creature enters the battlefield under your control, Marauding Raptor deals 2 damage to it. If a dinosaur is dealt damage this way, Marauding Raptor gets +2/+0 until end of turn. So Marauding Raptor is essentially a mana dork, but that's also very, very aggressive. All of our dinosaurs being 1 less to cast is very, very big for this. Marauding Raptor is also really, really aggressive. We play 1 dinosaur, it's a 4/3. Obviously, we have another card on our slide here that's kind of 2 dinosaurs in 1, so then it'll be, a 6/3, that kind of thing. So Marauding Raptor is the best card in the deck. Hands down, it's not even close. If you have an opener with a couple lands and a Marauding Raptor, most of the time, you're going to want to keep that hand. We're also playing 4 copies of Pugnacious Hammerskull, the newcomer from Lost Caverns of Ixalan. This card is really, really good. 6/6 for 2 and a green. When it attacks while you don't control another dinosaur, put a stun counter on it. Guess what? We are very rarely ever going to be putting a stun counter on Pugnacious Hammerskull. Works really well with Marauding Raptor as well. What's really sweet too is, there's some situations where if we go Elf into Marauding Raptor, and then we have 4, well, technically we'd have 5 mana at our disposal, but you can play like double Pugnacious Hammerskull the next turn, which is pretty sweet. Pugnacious Hammerskull, I had talked about for a long time, because for those who are not longtime viewers of the channel, I've been playing dinosaurs for a very long time. The deck has always needed a good 3-drop, and Pugnacious Hammerskull is the perfect card for this deck. It's really good. 6/6 for 3 is extremely strong. We're also playing 4 copies of Rampaging Raptor, essentially the red questing beast that's also a dinosaur. 4/4/4 trample haste. We can tap 2 to red to give it +2/+0 until end of turn. Whenever it deals damage, combat damage specifically to an opponent, it deals that much damage to target planeswalker that player controls or battle that player protects. We're not playing any battles in this deck, but being able to hit planeswalkers is definitely very, very nice. Rampaging Raptor is, I would say, the most underrated card in the deck. It's very, very strong. Definitely a huge fan of Rampaging Raptor. So let's go and head to the next slide here, which is also our last slide with all of our dinosaurs. We are playing 3 copies of Ripjaw Raptor. I have been playing 4 for a very long time, but I did go to 3 Ripjaw Raptor just because of kind of how the metagame is overall, but the card is still very, very good. 4/5 for 4. Whenever it's dealt damage, draw a card. Works really well with Marauding Raptor. That's kind of like the main combo that most people point to, and it's very, very good. We play the Ripjaw Raptor. Let's say we already have a Marauding Raptor in play. Ripjaw Raptor takes 2 damage, Marauding Raptor gets boosted, and we get to draw a card immediately, which is definitely very, very sweet. So definitely a big fan of Ripjaw Raptor. Then Regisaur Alpha, 4 copies of it. We are playing 4 full copies because this card is definitely very good. I would say the second best card in the deck. Other dinosaurs have haste when it enters the battlefield. Create a 3/3 dinosaur with trample, which is really good again with Marauding Raptor. Yes, sure, the token and the Regisaur Alpha takes a little bit of damage, but Marauding Raptor gets really, really big, and then we can attack for 9 with the token and the Ripjaw, or not the Ripjaw, the Marauding Raptor. Sorry, definitely a big fan of Regisaur Alpha. And our last dinosaur, our big dinosaur, Ghalta, Primal Hunger. We're playing 2 copies of it. Ghalta is definitely very, very good, especially when you follow it with Regisaur Alpha. Ghalta is really, really good. In the right game, you know, we can play this on turn 3, turn 4. Ghalta is just really, really good in this deck. Definitely a big fan of it, but we don't want to be flooded with it, so that's why we're only playing 2 copies. I would say it's probably one of the more commonly sideboarded out dinosaurs, just because if we're playing against decks that have a lot of removal, Ghalta can be a very, very bad draw for us sometimes. So it's the dinosaur that comes out the most, but it's either really, really good or not very good. There's not really an in-between for the most part, so just kind of keep that in mind when playing this deck a little bit here. So those are all the dinosaurs. Let's go and talk about some of the non-dinosaurs that are in our deck. The Mana Accelerants. We're playing 4 Llanowar Elves and 4 Elvish Mystic. It's really, really good, especially on turn, you know, we go turn 1 this, turn 2, we can play Pugnacious Hammerskull, or we can go Commune, maybe hit a Marauding Raptor, and then play the Marauding Raptor. Spoiler alert with Commune with dinosaurs. But the Mana Accelerant dorks are very, very good. A common question I get is, why don't you play the 2-mana ones? Why don't you play Otepec Huntmaster? And the reason is because they're not quite as fast generally. Assuming, you know, we're in a world where our opponents never kill our creatures, yes, Otepec Huntmaster does have a lot of potential, but I don't play it just because, you know, if we go, you know, nothing on turn 1 and then turn 2 Otepec Huntmaster, you know, and they follow up with a Fatal Push, you know, and then we don't have like a Hammerskull on turn 3, we've fallen so far behind in our aggro deck, and it's really hard for us to catch up. But, you know, at least if they have a Fatal Push for the Elf or the Mystic, and then we follow it up with maybe another one, or we play a Marauding Raptor, then we can just continue the curve even if they don't. The other reason is with Llanowar Elves and Elvish Mystic, the deck is also just faster on average. You know, we can have turn 3 Regisaur Alphas, you know, if we're really lucky, turn 3 Ghaltas. It allows us to have some very, very explosive starts that we normally wouldn't get if we just played the Otepec Huntmasters. So that's why we play Llanowar Elves and Elvish Mystic. They are just faster. Yes, they still die to the Marauding Raptor. So does Otepec Huntmaster, though. That's why we're playing the Mana Dorks. I just wanted to be clear on that, just because I think that's one of the most common questions I typically get with this deck. Yes, I've tried the Otepec Huntmaster, just really not, you know, personally a big fan of it. So, last thing we have to talk about for the main board is the non-creatures. It's really simple. We're playing 4 Commune with Dinosaurs and 4 Reckless Rage. So, Commune with Dinosaurs is essentially an Ancient Stirrings for our deck. Look at the top 5 cards of your library. You may reveal a dinosaur or land from among them and put it into your hand. The card is really, really good. I mean, it's Ancient Stirrings for dinosaurs. It always helps fix our hand. There's a lot of hands that I must say are a little bit sketchy sometimes, but Commune with Dinosaurs will always help fix that. You know, oh, we're a little short on lands. Boom, grab a land. There's gonna most likely be a land in the top 5. Oh man, you know, maybe, okay, we have an elf, maybe we could hit a Marauding Raptor, get that in play on turn 2, boom, we hit the Marauding Raptor, or, oh, hey, we just need some pressure, grab a 4-drop so we can curve it into our following turn, or heck, even if we're in a top deck mode against our opponent, oh, boom, Commune with Dinosaurs, okay, let's see what threats in our top 5, that kind of thing. Commune with Dinosaurs is always really, really good. Definitely a huge fan of this card. It's really underrated in this deck. It kind of just helps smooth out the draws, which, you know, Ancient Stirrings does for like Tron and other decks in the past, and Commune with Dinosaurs, definitely no exception to that. Reckless Rage is our main removal spell of choice. I really like this card. 1 red instant, deals 4 damage to target creature you don't control, and 2 damage to target creature you control. Works really well with Ripjaw Raptor, you know, with the Enrage, you don't deal damage, draw a card. But all of our creatures are really, really big, and they're not going to die to the Reckless Rage, you know, and like, even if our opponent has like a Stomp or something, most of the time, Reckless Rage is still going to just be clean. It doesn't even matter. Yes, I do know that there is the card Triumphant Chomp, but it's a sorcery, which can be pretty huge, so that's why we play Reckless Rage. Definitely a big fan of it. Dealing 4 damage for 1 red is absolutely insane, especially in Pioneer, so definitely a big fan of Reckless Rage. So that's our entire main board. Let's go ahead and talk about the sideboard real quick. I didn't make a list just because I figured I'd just kind of talk about each card generally. So Tormod's Crypt. We're playing 2 copies of it. It's really good. It exiles graveyards. That's all it does, but that's all we need it to do. It's 0 mana, so we don't have to devote, a turn or anything like that to being able to play it. It's just, commute with dinosaurs, do our thing, and then Crypt. Or, we draw it late game, boom, play Tormod's Crypt, play our dinosaur that we were already going to play. Definitely a big fan of it. Grafdigger's Cage. We're playing just 1 copy of it. It's good against a number of different decks. Arclight Phoenix. Guess what? Those birds can't come back. Amalia Combo, or really any deck that plays like Collected Company or Court of Calling, it stops them from entering, because it's creatures and graveyards and libraries can't enter the battlefield, so it stops Collected Company, which is just really, really good. That's pretty much the main reason to be playing Grafdigger's Cage. Cindervines, we're playing 2 copies of this. It comes in against a number of different decks. If our opponent's playing a bunch of artifacts and or enchantments, we bring in the Cindervines. If our opponent's playing a mid-range or control deck and we want to deal some incremental damage to them, boom, bring it in. If we want to blow up Fables and the Mirror Breaker, bring it in. Creativity, bring it in. This card comes in a lot. The only thing it really doesn't come in against is most aggro decks, unless you're playing against like Izzet in Soul or something like that. But Cindervines is fantastic, and we're playing 2 copies of it in the sideboard. We're also playing 2 copies of Klothys, God of Destiny. This card is fantastic. Probably my favorite sideboard card. We bring it against a number of different matchups. Hyper aggro, just because it's really good against, decks that are like Burn, that are trying to kill us really fast. We can bring this in, gain some life. We're trading all of our removal spells and creatures for their creatures. Helps us gain some life and catch up a little bit. It's also really good against decks that are playing Graveyard Matters, bringing it against like Greasefang or Arclight Phoenix, that kind of thing. It's really, really good against them. It's also really good against other mid-range and control decks, because guess what? All of their, their Croxas, they're gone. If they keep wiping our board with, what's the common one that everyone's playing? Like Sunfall or whatever right now, or Supreme Verdict, we can at least get some value and just keep chipping away at them. Definitely a big fan of Klothys. Probably the card I bring in the most, I would say, out of the sideboard. We're also playing 2 copies of Rampaging Ferocidon. Also, this art is sweet. It's the new one from the special guest Lost Caverns packs. Definitely a huge fan of the artwork. I finally was able to pick up a couple the other day, and they are stunning. Rampaging Ferocidon, pretty simple. It's good against any deck that's playing life gain, like Amalia Combo, or even decks that go super duper wide. We can bring it in against them, and they can get very, very punished because they take a ton of damage from playing a whole bunch of different creatures. We also can just bring it against other mid-range and control decks. If we want even more threats, just bring in the copies of Rampaging Ferocidon just for the maximum aggression to be able to get our opponent dead. So definitely a big fan of Rampaging Ferocidon. And then rounding out our sideboard, we are playing 2 copies of Rending Volley, 3 copies of Pick Your Poison, and 1 copy of Witchstalker Frenzy. So Rending Volley is pretty self-explanatory. Any deck that's playing white or blue creatures, we bring it in. That includes like Greasefang, humans, spirits, that kind of thing. Rending Volley is incredible. Pick Your Poison, new card from Murders at Karlov Manor, is an incredible sideboard card. Couple reasons we're playing it is, one, I always like having, a plummet style effect. In the past, I've been playing Atraxas Fall, but Pick Your Poison, I like a little bit more just because most of the time our opponent's going to only have 1 target of what we're trying to kill with it. So, Pick Your Poison, generally better. But what's really, really great about this is it's probably the best answer for the new Rakdos Vampires list that's really popping off that plays Vein Ripper, just because we can make them sacrifice a creature with flying, and they're only going to have 1 creature with flying, so we're going to be able to take down the Vein Ripper, no problem. It's also really good if our opponent's playing like Leyline Binding, we take out the Leyline Binding. If they're playing, Fable the Mirror Breaker, we take those out. Any artifact deck, boom, make them sacrifice an artifact, that kind of thing. Pick Your Poison is really good. Definitely a huge fan of the card, and that's why we're playing 3 copies of it. And then the 1 Witchstalker Frenzy is just really good. It's a removal spell when we need more removal spells, depending on what the matchup is, like humans or spirits or really whatever. It's also really good at killing Shieldred because it deals that important 5 damage to it. So definitely a big fan of Witchstalker Frenzy. So that's our entire sideboard. And this last little part here is kind of just going over the whole with the deck for the most part. So definitely a huge fan of the current orientation of Gruul Dinosaurs. So for those who are not longtime viewers of the channel, and really for those who are, I've been playing Dinosaurs in Pioneer pretty much since the format has been around, since 2019. I have been tuning this list for a very, very long time. A lot of cards have come and go. I've tried new cards, and I've tried, and they really weren't that good. And cards I thought that weren't that good, I tried them and they were really good. So the list has changed a lot over the last few years, especially just with the number of powerful cards that are coming into the format from Standard. And this is the list that I'm currently sitting on. I recently did play this at an RCQ last year, technically, as of the recording of this video, because I'm recording this in March. And this was pre-Lost Caverns of Ixalan, so I didn't have like Pugnacious Hammerskull, and I was able to get it to a top 8 finish, which was really cool. And, you know, there's less cards that didn't even make the deck as good. So it's kind of like the deck was slightly worse, but we did make it to the top 8. So this deck definitely has the strength to be able to, you know, get you that invite if that's something you're interested in. With that being said, too, with Girl Dinosaurs, is this the best thing you could technically be doing in the format? No. By default, it's technically not the best thing you can be doing. But this deck is really, really strong. If you're interested in building this list, the entire thing in US dollars is about $230. Most of the cost is just in the Cavern of Souls, the Boseiju, and a couple of the other lands like the Stomping Grounds. If you take out all of the lands, this deck is probably like $75 maybe. The deck is extremely cheap. So with most things like Pioneer, you know, the lands are going to be the biggest cost, and the rest you're kind of, you know, smooth sailing for the most part. But I'm also posting this deck right now. As of the recording of this video, it's about a month ahead of schedule for the Pioneer RCQ season. I'm posting this early just because those who are interested in building the list obviously can go ahead, get the cards ahead of time, get some reps in with the deck to be more familiarized with it. And you want to know what? You don't even have to play this at your local Pioneer RCQ. You can also just play it for your local Pioneer FNM, play it against your friend, whoever. You can just build the deck for fun. The main point of this video was also just, you know, just to show what I'm going to be playing in the upcoming season. And if you're interested in playing this spicy dinosaur list yourself, obviously that's awesome. And also let me know in the comment section below if you do end up building this list or have one similar. Just let me know in the comment section. So the last thing I want to talk about before we end the video here is a lot of people ask me, you know, why don't you play a lot of the big dinosaurs like the Carnage Tyrants and, you know, the Tyrant X-Rexes and things like that. And whereas I have tested a lot of those dinosaurs, I don't think that I don't think it's the most optimal way to play dinosaurs in the format. Yes, there is a thing you could do, you could go really, really big with like Castle Garenbrig and Topiary Stomper, and you can do some really, really big dinosaur monster things, but I do find a list like that a little bit more inconsistent. And there's also a lot of fast aggro decks that are played at the competitive level, and a lot of those fast aggro decks typically, by the time you're able to kind of get your feet under you, you're already at 5 life, and then they're able to pick you off, that kind of thing. But this deck is good against other aggro decks. Our creatures are bigger than theirs. We use our removal spells. We're able to get the advantage, hanging at around 8-10 life, and then we're able to just take them out with all of our big tramplers, that kind of thing. So I also wanted to go ahead and mention that. But if you have any questions about the deck list or anything that's in the if you have any questions about this deck, just let me know in the comment section below. I'm very responsive to everything like that. So if you have questions, feel free to ask me. No problem at all. So that takes us to the end of the video. This was a really fun video to make. I love talking about Gruul dinosaurs, and I'm very excited for the upcoming Pioneer RCQ season that starts in April. So let me know in the comment section below also, what are you going to be playing at your local Pioneer RCQs, or what is your favorite Pioneer deck? Just let me know about Pioneer. I'm a huge fan of the format. Just let me know in the comment section below what your thoughts are. So I'm Commander Crane. Thanks for watching this video, and I'll catch you in the next one.